Your second question involves, why is it that creationists target evolution specifically? This is a topic I need to make a full vid on too. Give me about 2 months and to do the research I need. The long and short of it was that evolution was the first discovery that really went against the Bible. I mean, really. Prior to this, scientists were pretty open-minded about all issues. Some of them stuck very strictly to the Bible. Some of them were open. You had this wide variety of different varieties of Christian of scientists who were for the most part Christian in name, but they had some things that, had they been directed by the Catholic Church, would have been just considered blasphemous heretics. Fortunately, the Catholic Church at the time of Darwin really wasn't in charge of science anymore, so the church didn't exactly pay much attention to what the scientific community was doing, and if they did, they really didn't make a big stink about it. Non-scientists really had no idea what scientists were studying at the academic level, and the things Christian scientists were finding about the Earth would have been considered blasphemous, especially young Earth creationists. Kelvin, I believe it was, discovered that the world had at least several 100,000 years, had been around for at least several 100,000 years, due to the heat loss. Linnaeus created taxonomy that diverged from the ideas of biblical kinds. Remember, this is a on-the-fly video, so some of my names and figures are probably off. Potholder54 had one on Kelvin's stuff, and Aaron Ra had one on Linnaeus and his I think it's his Ida video, where he's going up against VFX2. However, the average person just thought of science as something for rich people and paid little attention to this. Because of this, poor common folk had a distrust of science, as they felt it was a waste. It wasn't until The Origin of Species came out that the public took a real interest in academic studies, in academic science. The sensationalism of an ape-man drove public imagination. That time period also had a rise in studies in the occult as well, which was just really caused by the increase in the affordability of books, and it had little to do with Darwinism. Of course, the church freaked out since this book made satanic science available to their once simple flock, and they began to attack this new piece of heresy. Since then, Christians have had serious distrust of science in general, which was only backed up more by the nuclear age and, of course, pollution. They failed to realize that science is not evil, it is the politics of science that is evil, and their own religion of rapture and being fruitful and multiply is what drove the politics to such destructive ends. Since then, they see secularism and evolution as causing the breakdown of family and loose morals. These all existed before, but they think, thanks to 50s TV like Leave It to Beaver, that these family values, quote, quote, actually existed. Suburbia had their share of lasciviousness and wife-swapping, just that no one talked about it in stories and movies. Having a hot secretary usually meant you were having an affair with her, and many housewives suffered from severe depression and alcoholism. Spouse and child abuse has actually gone down since those days, but TV lets them think that evolution has caused the world to get worse. Family values they hear about from their parents or remember only really existed in isolated rural communities or small towns, and these communities may or may not have actually followed these values, like the Mayberry they see. They may have just used the values to discriminate. Now that about 50% of the world lives in a city and technology is now able to spread information and alternate ideas to even the most remote person, Christian fears secularism even more. There is an anthropological concept called Golden Age syndrome. It's a phenomenon that occurs because the brain tends to forget bad experiences and remembers only good experiences. This is to prevent us from going crazy or getting depressed. But people always think the past was better. The religious take the advantage of this, consciously or not, in making their sheep think the world is getting worse and worse, blaming it on science. Religions have used this mechanism for millennia, all the way back to Confucius, who idealized the Yellow Emperor's reign, who may have just been a tyrant with good press, much like I believe King David was. Not just me, but some historians seriously think that's what happened. Also, since it was the clergy attacking science, they did not understand the science, or they may have not attacked it had they understood it. So they lumped all opposing science, including taxonomy, abiogenesis, speciation, natural selection, cosmology, the Big Bang, and geology, into one scary evil word: evolution. And the fear and the disinformation has self-perpetuated virally for decades. If you were to explain each piece of what they call evolution, calling it by another name, they would probably completely agree with you if they can understand it and take it on fact. Assuming their faith doesn't prevent their minds utterly blowing up, they would have no choice but to accept evolution was a fact once all the pieces came together and coalesced. They also invented creation science and intelligent design, as well as the fact-mining biblical archaeology, because nothing reinforces a person's faith as to assure them that science backs it up. Also, creationists have been trained to automatically reject or feel guilty anytime we hear certain words that the church used to trigger guilt or fear, or our reasoning capacity to shut off when we heard the word in a topic. When I started studying our primate precursors, starting with Wikipedia, which I think also has had a major impact on people studying more things than people just even 10 or 20 years ago would have looked into, I instantly had a gut reaction of guilt, like I was viewing something satanic or utterly immoral, even though I was an atheist at the time. I had to deprogram my thinking about that. I mean, I felt horrible and nasty just looking at this this piece about Neanderthals, because it was evil and wrong, of course. And while writing this, I was watching a video on Mars. They used the phrase millions and millions, and without even thinking about it, I prepared my brain to disbelieve whatever it was saying, because fearing the word millions or billions is essential to keeping people ignorant about evolution. The video was actually talking about Mars being millions of miles away, but I still felt a seething anger at them for using that word, like a dog who has an irrational anger toward a person who looks kind of like someone who abused them. It must have been God who made me watch that video at this specific time while I was writing this, as it was too much of a coincidence to be chance. Or maybe it was Satan, who knows. Secularism is another word I still have a gut reaction to, about, even though it's what has kept the freedom of religion and helped religions thrive in this country. I'll probably do a longer video on this topic, or make a series on it depending on how things go, so keep looking for it. Thanks for the idea.